Hello, BookTube. I'm going to do something I haven't done in literally years. I'm going to film a video on my phone. This is how I used to. This is how I used to do all my videos for BookTube. I use a tablet now, and my wife has an editing program on it and all that. But because I'm at work and the schedule's gotten a little crazy lately, I am going to do a tag, and it's the Josh's at Literary Gladiator. Josh has done these foodie book tags for a long time, and this is the 30th, so it's a special one. I've done many of these, and I love them. They're fantastic. And he did, I think they did like a survey to see what the next topic would be, and it was spice. So that would be something I would actually have voted for. But like I say, I like Literary Gladiators. Been watching them for a long time. Been subscribed for a long time, and they've done these foodie book tags. Josh has done these for a long time, so it's exciting to get to the 30th. So he's got a list of prompts here, obviously being a tag, and I'm going to go through them. There is one where I'm going to need to have my wife insert a photo, because I'm not at home to grab a book that would be required by one of these. And I'll let you know what the prompt is when I get to it. So here we go, spice. So the first one's probably appropriate to be the first one, and that's salt. If you were an English teacher, what would you teach to add an engaging taste to your class? So being a librarian, a public librarian, I'm not a school librarian, but a public librarian, this question actually does come up. We follow the trends with young adults and with children to see what they want to read, and our requirements for what we purchase are quite different than what the schools do, because schools have a different mission, right? Or a different emphasis on the mission. We like to educate too, we like to entertain, and I'm sure the schools like to entertain, but the emphasis is a little different. And a lot of times we'll see these big series, we'll do all these sorts of things. And I remember the books from when I was a boy that we would read in school. Nothing was called young adult then. There wasn't that category. That's a publisher's category. But we reread what you would consider the standards. They probably did change over time. To Kill a Mockingbird was a standard, and one my son read last year. My oldest boy read in school last year. I don't think he would have ever picked it up, but he really enjoyed it. My daughter this year had read Of Mice and Men, so that would be another one I would keep. But there's plenty of others that I think sort of drive kids away. So I would avoid those types of things. I think you have to be on the ground. I don't think it should only be what the kids love. I think like To Kill a Mockingbird or Of Mice and Men, my children end up really enjoying them, but I don't think they would ever pick them. So I think being a teacher, it's very difficult. But I don't believe in just having a program and shoving it down the kids' throat. But if you have a class with 15 kids, you can't really tailor make the reading process, and I think you sort of have to. So for me, I'd mix it. I'd do that Kill a Mockingbird, A Mice and Men, but I'd probably insert some short stories from different genres that I knew the kids were interested in. Maybe some epic fantasy type of stuff. You can't do epic fantasy as a short story, but that kind of fantasy or science fiction or a mystery story, or, I would mix it up. And maybe keep some of the old classics, but try to modernize as much as you can. I know that's a roundabout way of saying it, but I think it's actually a tougher question than it appears. Or maybe, I'm sure Josh knows it's a tough question. So I would keep things like To Kill a Mockingbird, Of Mice and Men. I do know that there's a bit of a controversy about a book that I've been reading about in the Library Journal, but there's always controversies when your kids are reading. But yeah, I would I would sprinkle it with maybe some short stories and things like that in different genres, just to give the kids a taste of the different possibilities of reading. So hopefully that's not a cop-out, but I wouldn't be a teacher for anything. It's just too tough a job. Black pepper, a classic that leaves a lingering aftertaste. So for me, I would have to say, many of them do, which is why they're classic, but I would say probably Nikos Kazantzakis' Freedom or Death. There's certain scenes in that. It takes place on Crete. You have the Turkish occupation. There's some strong writing, even in translation in that, and there's some scenes and there's some ways that language is used that have always stuck with me. It's a maybe not Kazantzakis' most famous book in the United States, but it's certainly one of his best, I think. So Nikos Kazantzakis, Freedom or Death. Number 3, crushed red pepper, a writer that fires you up. Is that in a good way or a bad way? Some of them fire me up in a bad way. The one who fires me up and gets me excited or engaged, I would say probably the best one for that would be Hermann Hesse. I'm a huge fan of Narcissus and Goldman. I think some of Hesse's books, well, they all have a theme. They do cover a lot of different psychic spaces, let's say. And Narcissus and Goldman is one of those that gets me excited to read. And then when I put it up against something like Magister Ludi or the Glass Bead Game, the differences and similarities are intellectually rewarding. I really, really like that. Number 4, Paprika, a writer that can be both mild and intense with their writing. So on that one, I think I would have to go. The intense part's easy. It's mild and then intense. That I would probably have to go with Saramago, the great Portuguese author. I know he fires some people up, so that would have been maybe somebody else's answer for that, for crushed red pepper. But for Paprika, I mean, he can be on several notes, and I like that. Again, some I'm reading in translation, though, because I do not read the original. Nutmeg, a genre or category of writing that is great in slight amounts, but overwhelming when overdone. I think that's every genre, right? Right? You got to mix things up. I mix my reading up all the time. So if I'm reading science fiction, I need the palate cleanser. To me, science fiction is immensely important and engages with the world in a way that some of the other genres don't, because we live in a science fiction world. And if anything's shown us in the last 3 years, that's true. I think the pandemic would have to qualify. At the same time, we're launching satellites everywhere, space missions everywhere, telescopes in space that are doing amazing things. So we live in a science fiction world. And the problems that science fiction world has grappled with for half a century or more are our problems. So nothing is less escapist than science fiction. And sometimes it can be a bit overwhelming. So I have to smooth it out. You read some poetry, you read short stories, you read some of the classics of literature of the past, you read philosophy, whatever you're going to do to slip away from that a little bit. So if you need escapism, science fiction is not that if you're reading the real stuff. So, all right. Cinnamon, a cozy work about an intense subject. Wow. Cozy work about it. Well, any of those mysteries, right? Like I think of the Midsummer Murders and you get these any of these series of mysteries that are cozies, and you know, there's a dead body. There's nothing cozy about a dead body, a murdered person, violently murdered. To me, those are the ones that are really strange. I know people love them, and that's fine. I have a lot of them leave this library. People are very happy with them. But I've always found it to be a rather odd thing. I think the cozies I've read, if I'm wrong with my definition of who thinks what's a cozy and what isn't. But to me, Hamish Macbeth, was the MC Beaton. I read quite a lot of those. I enjoy them, but I'm sitting there thinking, this person, they got a little harder edge maybe than most cozies, but Agatha Christie was the same way, Death in the Library and Murder in the Library, whatever it was. Some of those cozies, I tried the Agatha Raisin. So yeah, to me, be cozy and then have a violent death doesn't seem to go well together. Garlic powder. What are your thoughts on Sparknotes? I always think of Cliff Notes. Maybe it's because of my age and where I grew up. But I don't know. They have their place. I know that some people don't like them because they're saying, well, you know, you have to read Moby Dick. Now, those of you who've made it through Moby Dick and loved it, fine. The many of you who tried to get through Moby Dick and didn't love it and struggled, fine. But something like Sparknotes, for those vast majority of students who are never going to enjoy or make it through Moby Dick, do give them some cultural references. They do give them some basic understanding so that they can go about and engage with the world when that cultural landmark is mentioned, at least they know what's going on. So I don't believe every person in the world is going to be capable nor interested in finishing Moby Dick. But if they get something from Sparknotes, at least when there's a conversation, they hold their own. And I think they're great for that. Also, they provide a lot of tools if you are reading Moby Dick for the first time and you're a young person especially. So I have no problem with them. Like anything if it's misused, well, then it's misused. You know, Turmeric, the most yellow book you own. That's what I was talking about when I first did this video. This started this video. I'm going to have to go to my shelves when I get home. Try not to pick something that somebody else has done, but out of a library the size I have at home, there's going to be a very yellow book. But I think about the series of books called the Yellow Books, but I don't own any of those. So, chili powder, a difference-making character in a work. Well, I would hope that almost all works had a difference-making character, right? I would say the balance. I would think the balance and edge that Maturin gives Aubrey and the Aubrey Maturin stories by Patrick O'Brian, novels. Either character would be lesser without the other, but that's often the case with friendship, right? But that edge helps round both characters, I think. Maybe I'm not explaining it well, but that little edge and that difference between Maturin and Aubrey that Maturin has, because Aubrey's of a type, and he's very interesting, and he's a complex fellow, but Maturin's darkness and those sharp edges of his personality really bring both characters to the fore. So very fascinating. Let me see here. Number 10, Cardamom, a work that can directly relieve you on a bad day. Well, I don't know if I have an answer to that. It's a good question. It just maybe doesn't work with me perfectly. I'll try to answer it here. So if you're saying something that gives me, it's sort of like a stress release, sort of like, okay, I can let the world go a little bit. Actually, a lot of times epic fantasy can do that for me. I don't read a ton of it, but I enjoy it when I do. And if I can escape into that a little bit and just fall into a world that somebody's created that's separate from the world I'm in now. See, that's the difference between fantasy and science fiction. Science fiction sometimes can be difficult with that because you're dealing with a different set of problems. I can deal with trying to find a ring somewhere or trying to find a sword or you know what I mean, that, and being in a different world. Right now I'm reading the first of the Robert Jordan Wheel of Time novels because of course the TV series is on and I wanted to revisit it, and I can't even remember if I read it, but I'm reading it now and watching the series. The series is different, which it would be, it's on the screen, and enjoying the heck out of both. But the reading's an escape. It's the end of the day thing. I can let the stress go away. So I would say that yeah, right now it would be Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time. Number 11, what is your favorite spice? So for me, it's sort of between two. I love curry. We got this thing for curry. Love all sorts of recipes with curry. And I really like paprika. I like Hungarian sweet paprika, which I use in a lot. Cause my wife's Portuguese, so we use it in a lot of our dishes. So between the two, yeah, they're by far my favorite. So I don't use a lot of salt. A fellow my age, that's probably a good idea. So I don't use a lot of salt, but I do use a lot of paprika. Yeah, I show up in the store and I'm getting it again. People are like, whoa. But and I do like curry too. So that would be it. And number 12, who do you tag? Now, Josh tagged a whole slew of people. I think, and a lot of people have done these tags over the years, and I love these tags. And I think I'm not going, I know that's a cop-out, but it's because I'm at work and I don't have time to go through and see who's done it and who hasn't. I did want to get it done, even though I'm a little late, just because I very much appreciate getting tagged by Josh. I appreciate the opportunity to do these tags over the years. I hope you subscribe to Literary Gladiators. Very interesting and unique channel that does things a bit different, and I really appreciate it, Josh. This is a wonderful tag. I had great fun doing it, but I found it very challenging, and those are the best tags. So I hope you all are well, and I'm going to get back to work, and enjoy the rest of your day, BookTube.